I'm Nancy Smith Mattox, and I am way beyond excited for this interview that's coming up. This beautiful woman of God has been through so much, and she's going to share this super awesome testimony that's going to help literally thousands of people through lots of troubles. So I'm so excited. First, I'd like to just say that this is Nancy Smith Mattox on WYTV7 in Charlotte, on Shine Your Light Radio Ministry, and WYTV7 is a nonprofit. We do take donations and seed money. $5 goes a long way. What we use our money for, our donations for, is to promote our shows, all the broadcaster shows internationally. And we do have international viewers, which means our messages get out to people that really need them. So I'm real excited about that. So just bear that in mind as we go through this beautiful interview. Without further ado, she's got a lot to talk about, so I don't want to take too much time. Let me introduce her. Her name is Rolitha Olgesby, and she is from Powderville, North Carolina. I think that's close to Clemson, isn't it, Miss Rolitha?
No, ma'am. It's Powdersville, South Carolina.
South Carolina. Okay. I'm sorry. I knew that it was somewhere over there. I had the wrong thing written down, so I apologize for that. Anyway, this lady has been through everything. She has 5 kids, right? 44 years old, and has a 24-year-old son that's had a tremendous amount of success through college and through the NFL. So we're going to hear a lot about that, but we're also going to hear about the tragedy and the redemption and the restoration that she's had. I'm just so excited. We're going to start at the beginning because it just amazes me when I heard her story, everything she's been through, and it will let you know that God does have grace and that God will get you through anything if you just open your heart and let him in. So first of all, Miss Rolitha, tell us a little bit about your childhood and your family and your siblings and what kind of led up to your awesome testimony.
My childhood was actually, I had an awesome childhood. I have 3 brothers and I have a sister. I'm the oldest out of all the children. But my childhood, like you asked, my childhood I had a perfect childhood. I was raised by my grandmother, my great-grandmother, who I call my mom. She passed away when I was 18, getting ready to turn 19. And that's when I took another road.
Yes. So you had a good childhood with your siblings and all, and if you were the oldest, then you were the second mother to all of them, like I'm the second mother to my siblings. So they always had 2 mothers, and I'm sure yours did the same thing. So it was in your teen years when you really started a very dark journey of your testimony, right?
Yes, ma'am.
So let's talk a little bit about that. Tell us what happened to you, what you got into. And because I really want this story of redemption and restoration to be out there for everyone to understand that no matter where you are, you can get out of it. So tell us a little bit about that.
When I was about 18, my grandmother passed, my great-grandmother, which was my mother. And after that, I just started just hanging with the wrong people and started experimenting in things. I would drink a little alcohol every now and then. But then I tried crack cocaine, and that was a road to I thought at the time to the end. You know, I experienced a lot of stuff. Like I said earlier, I was homeless, but not to the point where I was living on the streets. I did live in motels, from motel to motel. Just me. My children never they didn't experience that, thank God. But when I started, I was young. I dealt with drugs for half of my life, majority of my life, starting in my teenage years.
And you have 5 children, so you were a single mother, right? Homeless, but your children didn't realize that you were homeless. How did you do that with 5 children? I mean, I don't understand.
The time when I went was homeless. I had 1 child.
Okay.
My oldest child. And she was, at the time, she was with my family, my father at the time. So the other four, they never experienced that being.
Oh, okay. So as we talked before, and we've talked quite a bit about your testimony, you were telling me that that you were incarcerated,
Yes.
and I want you to talk a little bit about that because you were stripped from your children. You had more than one at that point in time, didn't you?
At that time, I had two children. I was incarcerated for about a year. And it was due to using drugs. I was, going out shoplifting to support my habit. I got charges. I went to prison in 1993. I was young. I was about 19 at that time. I got out of prison.
And this is difficult for you. I know we're sharing some really raw stuff here. I know it's difficult for you, but I love you and I appreciate you so much. If I didn't think it was going to help you and help others, we wouldn't talk about this. I want you to tell us a story. Okay.
Yes, I was in prison. I did a year in prison, and I'll tell anybody that's one of the worst places to be. And when I left there, I told God I would never come back here. That's been over probably 20 something years now.
So does the stigma stay with you for a while? I know you're redeemed and you're restored now, but during that time when that was happening, it took a lot to overcome that stigma, right? Of being incarcerated or have been, yeah.
Maybe, and the other one, the oldest was 6.
Okay. Wow. So you told me the story about when your husband and your children picked you up from prison when you got released. Tell us what happened there.
Oh, they picked me up. It was one of the children. They picked me up. When they picked me up, the saying in prison, don't look back. When you leave out the gate, don't look back. So what I did was I got in the car, in the back seat, and I got in that floorboard because I wasn't going to look back because I knew I wasn't coming back, not for anything. I wasn't going to never leave my children like that again.
Well, it's so timely to talk about that because right now people are talking about how people are stripped, the illegals are stripped from their children, and some of them aren't even their parents. They're just bringing them to get into our country. But yet we have literally thousands and probably millions of parents like you that were stripped from their children and had to be incarcerated. So in my opinion, we should have been focusing more on that. And whether that was 26 years ago with you or whether that's now, it's still appropriate to get it out and let people know. Because for one thing, we'd like to prevent them from going to prison. But if they hear your story, I think they'll understand what the great things that have happened after you went through all of that. Yes. So tell me about what happened to your husband, because I know that's hard when he picked you up at prison. Right?
Well, at the time, when I was in prison, I wasn't married.
Oh, okay. Well, I thought you said something about whoever they picked you up and y'all had a car accident or something.
Okay, well, they picked me up, but no, it was years after that.
Oh, okay. Okay. So tell us about that story with what happened.
Well, my car accident was about 7 years ago. The father of my children, we were riding. We was going to the store this one particular night. I was intoxicated. And I remember seeing, I could see when we was on our way back home, leaving the store, and I could see the headlights coming towards us. Not sure if he saw it at that time, but I remember saying, Jesus. We had this wreck. We flipped, but at this moment, when I called out on the name of Jesus, he showed me how to position my hands so that, because it was too late for me to try to put a seatbelt on. We flipped. The car hit us. We flipped. We was there for God's know how long. But then I heard him asking God to save him because we were sinners.
Yeah.
We were both sinners. And
Isn't that wonderful?
So when God saved his soul, it was a light. This wreck happened about 10:30 that night, but it was a light. I never forget this beam. And it was a bright beam because people was around the car and they wouldn't help me out. But it was a beam. And I asked God, I said, you know, I have these children at home. I need to get back to them. And it was a beam come from heaven. And I actually, and the car was it was on a hill. We was like up against if I opened a door, I couldn't. So nothing but the grace of God got me out of the car. He passed away. Then I became a single mother, then of 5 children.
Wow. You know, it's a sad, it's a very sad story. And it doesn't, I mean, as far as I'm concerned, God has so much grace and love for us. We really can't even imagine the depth of the grace that we have. But when I hear your story, I think about that. And I think this woman has had so much that she's been through, and God still loved her. God still saved her. But he saved you for those children. You needed to raise those children. And, you know, he'd already been apart from a couple of them sometimes. But that's really a profound story. So that's why I want you to go through little by little what your story really is. So that was 7 years ago.
Yes,
And
ma'am.
you weren't on drugs then, or were you just intoxicated?
I was on drugs.
You were on both. Yeah. So I guess that's at that point in time where you felt like you better straighten up, right?
No, ma'am. It took a little more. I was still out there.
Yeah.
After the fact.
Wow. I guess that just probably brought a whole lot of pain and sorrow to you, and you probably didn't feel like you had a place to turn.
And you know, and then because he was really all that I knew from the age of, I was young. I was maybe 16.
Wow.
So he was all that I knew. So yes, of course, being an addict, I numb myself. Maybe I numb myself for a while after that.
So tell us about the transformation and when it happened, how you felt, what happened, and how you knew you had to just do an about face and change your life.
Oh, I would just remember the last time that I was, you know, getting high, still thinking I was sneaking. You know, God knows all. But this one particular night, I remember I could feel my soul leaving, just like I was getting ready to die. And I yelled out, threw my hand up. I said, Jesus, if you take this from me, I will never do it again. Never do it again. So that was on a Saturday night. That Sunday morning, I got up and I went to church. And when I went to church, I was just tired, and it was just like I was just carrying a lot of weight.
And you were.
No, God, that wasn't intended for my life. I went there. He took me there to bring me out. But, you know, I know that wasn't intended, but I was tired of being sick and tired. And I didn't want to die, because if I would die, if I'd have died that night, well, I was going to hell. And when I felt my soul just leaving my body, I've never experienced that. And I knew I had to make a change, and make a change now.
Well, that's why your story is so beautiful. I mean, you're so explicit in how you explain it. And I mean, I know it's difficult and I know it's hard. So did you go to a church where your family was? Was it an old church where your family used to go, or was it something new for you?
It's my family church. That's where I go to church. Went there one Sunday. You know, they I used to talk about my testimony, but then I stopped just talking about it. But this Sunday, I went in that church and I went to that altar. You know, the pastor was preaching and the message, it was for me that day.
Wow.
That day when I walked through that door, I already, you know, I was tired. And the church is a hospital for the sick. And when
Hmm.
I went in there, I went to the altar. He did his sermon, and then it was a call to worship. We go to the altar. But this day, when I went to the altar, I went to his feet. I went to the Father's feet. I had to, because I was the woman, like the woman with the issue of blood that they talk about in the Bible. Well, I was the woman that had the issue with this drug problem. And I knew that I had to touch the hem of his garment in order to be free. And instantly, instantly, when I got up from that altar, it was just like everything that I went down with, it was immediately gone. So
Wow.
that's why I know, you know, God did it for me so he can get the glory. You know, I've went to the rehabs. I've done all the programs. It didn't work for me. It worked. The program works if you work it. But for me, when I was going to the programs, I was going to stay out of jail or something like that. I wasn't going for me. I was going for other people. But when I got sick and tired of being sick and tired and living that life and know that God, I wasn't created for that. You know, we're not created to be drug addicts. And if God can clean me up, he can clean anybody up. I am 44 years old. I think I started maybe 18, 19 years old. Half of my life.
Wow.
Today's life is different for me.
Exactly. And
Not like,
that's why your testimony is so important, because it seems like a lot of people always go to rehab for whatever addiction they have, and it doesn't have to be just drugs. It could be any addiction. They go to
anything.
rehab and they're just going there for a certain purpose, and then they're right back in their old ways again.
You're
They
right.
don't really serious. But when God's ready for you to take it serious, you know it.
You
And
know
I say God nags us a lot. He'll get in our mind, and he won't stop until we do what we're supposed to do. And I believe that could have been what happened to you that day you went to church. You knew that if you were going to live.
my time. I knew like that Saturday night, if I knew if I didn't call on the name of Jesus, what would have happened to me if he wasn't just right there with me? I possibly wouldn't even be here talking to you today. So when that Sunday morning, I was glad to be in the house of the Lord. And after that, you know, I don't miss church. I stay in I stay in the word. You know, I still have my flaws. I'm not perfect, not at all. But
Yes,
I try
ma'am.
not to pick up drugs.
Well, there's not any of us that are perfect, but we have to realize that we're not, and that's what we have God for.
Oh yeah.
So, tell me a little bit about what happened to the children during this time. I mean, I guess by what you're saying, you had support, your parents and all your support team that was helping you with the children.
Well, when the times that when I went to prison, I had two children. Okay. My mom had my son, and my father had my daughter.
Yeah.
So, and that was, but
But
like
I'm talking about later, like still while you were still addicted before you.
what I did was I wasn't in the streets with it. I would go in the streets and go get it, but I would come back home, and my children, they might be asleep, they might be gone, or they, or I'm here. I was here with them They never saw it. They didn't see
Wow.
it, but they knew, they knew the changes.
Yeah. Wow. That's amazing right there that you were able to
I,
retain
I
your
was going
composure and raise these children.
to raise these children because these children only had me. And I know their father's gone, and I was the only one that they had. So, and I didn't want my children to be addicts.
Wow.
So, my children was a big part of that turnaround.
Absolutely. You did
You know,
that for them. Well, let's change gears just a little bit. Your story is just so beautiful, but I want to change gears just a little bit. Tell us what happened about, was it 3 or 4 months ago? Something really special happened to you?
yes, I got married.
You did. I mean, did you ever realize that that was going to happen again? That you'd find that kind of happiness in
No,
another marriage as you were going through everything?
no, I never thought, never thought about even just getting in another relationship because I was in a relationship with a father for a while,
Well,
so
and plus, you really started focusing on having a relationship with God. You almost didn't have any room in your heart or in your life for another person. And then all of a
right.
sudden, that relationship developed, and you show your wedding on your wedding and your vows and all on Facebook Live, and it's just absolutely gorgeous,
Yes,
beautiful,
ma'am.
beautiful wedding. So, but I just wanted to share that with everybody because you just glow when you talk about your wedding and your man and all that. So I love
It
that.
was exciting.
And y'all's family just seems to be so beautiful and so happy now. If you look at you now, look at your family now, you would never realize what you've been through. And that's what I really want to portray to
No,
everyone. Look at this gorgeous woman that is so happy with everything that's happening in her life, and think about where she came from. And that was for a long time. She was in that situation. And look at you now. So, and then the last thing, we're going to run out of time because you're going to sing a song for us after this is over, which I'm really excited for. It's called Going Up Yonder because you have a beautiful voice. So we're going to show that too. It's already been recorded. We're going to show that. But I really want to talk a little bit about Shaq if we can, if you're allowed to. So tell
okay.
us what happened with that good fortune and what happened too, because God has blessed you so many times along the
Yes,
way.
God blessed us. Blessed my son. He actually played for the Clemson Tigers, the national champs here in South Carolina. And then he went to the draft. He was picked by the Bills. This is his third year playing for the Bills. So God has really just blessed us. God turned, our lives around. I never thought we would be here in this place where we are today. And I give all credit and I give all glory to God because everything we have, everything he's done is because of him. Nothing we done, but just start to live by his word, stand on his word and keep, and he's going to keep his promises. So once I made him, and my favorite, let me get to this, my favorite Bible scripture
Yes,
is
I want that too.
23rd, the Lord is my shepherd. And once I made him my shepherd, well, the second part comes, I shall not want. So that's how I look at what God has done for us. Once I made him my Lord and my Savior and I meant it, well, then that second part comes in, I shall not want. So he's my provider, he's my healer, he's my deliverer. And he's my all. I'm not perfect, won't say that I am. But each and every day, as long as I pick up the word of God, I don't have to worry about going and picking up no dope. There's always hope without dope.
See, and
Always
I
hope.
love that saying for you, hope without dope, because I mean, when you're in the throes of whatever addiction you're in, you don't think you can come out of it. I mean,
Yeah,
your mind is blown. You really
yeah,
do believe that you'll never be right, but but you will be. You just have to open your heart, and you will be.
So for a long time, I thought, God, will I ever come out of this? Will I ever just stop using drugs? And I knew that God he was my only way. He was my only way. Some people higher powers, other things, but for me, it's God.
Absolutely. Well, yes, and I have some good news to share with everyone, all of our audience that watches me every week and watches Shine Your Light every week. We are one of the nominees, the finalists for the Gospel Image Award TV show that's coming up in Charlotte in a few weeks. Our show is one of the finalists. So by the time they see this show, that could put us over the brink and make us the winner, is what I'm hoping. So, but anyway, I'm real excited about that. And like I said, we're almost out of time. But Rolitha, I appreciate you so much. I appreciate you opening up your heart and sharing with us. I know it's hard for you, but it was time to get it out. It's time to get it all out in the open. And if we can, our motto at WYTV7 in Charlotte, Christian Broadcasters Network, is if we help one, we've done our job. And you know what? We could help millions with them listening to your story. Because you don't believe it can be done. You don't believe you can get out of the debt. You don't believe you can get out of the dark, but you can. This is living proof right here. So
you can get out.
Yes, ma'am. Well, I thank you so much. And let me remind you again that we are going to be, Rolitha is going to be singing a beautiful song for us later after this is over. And it's called Going Up Yonder. So I'm so excited. And I thank you again so much, Rolitha, for sharing all these tender moments with us, okay?
For having me.
It was a pleasure. Thank you.
It's not me. You didn't make me for this. If you never dealt with addiction, you have somebody. Honey, help them up.
That's right.
Don't keep your foot over their head.
That's right.
Because guess what? You ain't gonna get no blessing if you do. But also don't be an enabler. You gotta let them fall. Don't put no pillow up under them to let them catch the false sound, because you're doing it for yourself. You ain't doing it for them.
Amen.
I had an enabler. Today I don't have an enabler. I have Jesus. I have Jesus. And I know, you know what? Until the day I die. You might get tired of me saying it, but I'm going to let you know how he cleaned me up from cocaine.
All right.
I don't have to do it, and my life is not the same. God is good.